Why do schools teach algebra, but not how to build wealth? Why are we told to get good grades, but never taught how to handle money? Why are we trained to work hard, but not how to make money work for us? These questions haunted Robert Kiyosaki as a young boy. He grew up with two fathers. One was his real dad. The other was his best friend's dad. One was educated. The other was rich. His real dad had a college degree, a stable job, and strong opinions about success. He believed in studying hard, getting a good job, and working until retirement, but he struggled with money. He was always worried about bills. The other man, his best friend's dad, had dropped out of school young, but he owned businesses. He taught Robert about money, investing, and thinking differently. He believed that jobs were traps, that real freedom came from financial education. Both fathers gave advice, but their worlds were opposite. Robert had to choose. Which father would he listen to? This book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is not just about money. It is about mindset. It is about choices. It is about the lessons we never hear in school. And it all started with one question. What if everything you were taught about money was wrong? If you have ever felt confused about money, if you have ever worked hard and still felt stuck, this story is for you. It is time to hear the truth, not from a textbook, but from two fathers and one life-changing lesson. Robert Kiyosaki grew up with two fathers. One was his real father, the man who raised him, a man with a PhD. He worked for the government. He believed in education, in safe jobs, in getting promotions. Robert called him Poor Dad. The other was his best friend's father, a man who had little formal education, but built a business empire from nothing. He owned restaurants, stores, real estate. He taught Robert about money, risk, and freedom. Robert called him Rich Dad. They were both smart. They were both strong. They both wanted the best for Robert, but they had very different ideas about success. Poor Dad believed, go to school, get good grades, find a secure job with benefits. The government will take care of you. Money is the root of all evil. He worked hard every day. He earned a good salary, but he always had bills. He paid taxes. He bought a big house, and he hoped for retirement someday. He thought, work hard, play it safe, follow the rules. Rich Dad believed, go to school but learn about money. Do not work for money. Make money work for you. Invest in assets. Take smart risks. The lack of money is the root of all evil. He told Robert, the poor and middle class work for money, but the rich make money work for them. He thought, learn, invest, take control. As a child, Robert heard both voices. One said, study hard, get a job. The other said, study money, build assets. One said, security is success. The other said, freedom is success. He was just a kid, but he had to choose which father to follow. And that choice changed everything. Robert began to see the world in a new way. He saw that most people live in fear. Fear of losing their job. Fear of being broke. Fear of risk. They live paycheck to paycheck. Even if they earn more, they spend more. He realized his poor dad's advice led to a life of limits, but his rich dad's advice led to a life of growth. One father gave him degrees. The other gave him direction. One said, I cannot afford that. The other said, how can I afford that? One followed the system. The other built his own. Robert knew. If he followed poor dad's path, he might be comfortable, but never free. If he followed rich dad's path, he might face risk, but also real wealth. And so, as a young boy, Robert started his journey, not just to learn about money, but to master it. This book is the story of that journey. Schools teach math. They teach history. They even teach how to play the flute, but they do not teach money. Why? Because schools were designed to create employees, not owners. They teach kids how to work in the system, not how to own the system. Robert's poor dad believed in school. He had degrees, diplomas. He worked hard to earn a good income, but he never learned how money worked. So, even with a good job, he was always short on cash. But Rich Dad, he thought differently. He said something Robert never forgot. Backhand index pointing right. The more you learn about money, the more power you have. To Rich Dad, money was not just paper. It was knowledge, control, freedom, and he believed you are either a master of money or a slave to it. Robert was only 9 years old when he got his first lesson. He and his best friend Mike wanted to be rich. So what did they do? They started making their own money. Literally, they took toothpaste tubes made of lead. They melted them down. They poured the lead into molds shaped like coins. They made fake nickels in the oven. Why? Because they thought, if rich people have money, let's make our own money. Soon, Robert's dad found out. He laughed, but he was serious too. He told Robert, that is illegal. You cannot make money like that. So Robert asked, then how do I get rich? His dad had no answer. He just said, go to school, get good grades. That is the way. But Robert was not satisfied. So he went to Rich Dad. Rich Dad smiled and said, you want to learn how to be rich? Good. Then work for me, but I will not pay you. Robert was confused. No money, he asked. No money, said Rich Dad. If I pay you, you will think like an employee. You will expect a paycheck. Rich Dad added, life does not teach you with words. It teaches you with action. You want to learn? You must experience it. So Robert worked. He stocked cans, cleaned shelves. For no money, he got angry. He felt used. He wanted to quit. And that was exactly what Rich Dad wanted. He was teaching Robert something deeper. The poor work for money. The rich make money work for them. That moment changed Robert's life. He stopped chasing paychecks. He started chasing knowledge. He began to see how people are trapped, working for money their whole life without understanding it. Rich Dad taught, you can earn money, you can save money, but until you learn about money, it will always control you. Robert realized, it is not about how much money you make. It is about how smart you are with it. That is why financial education is so important, because money is not taught in school, but it is tested in life. If you want to be rich, learn the difference between assets and liabilities. It sounds simple, but most people get it wrong. Even highly educated people, even those with good jobs. They work hard, they earn well, but they stay broke. Why? Because they spend their lives buying liabilities, thinking they are assets. Let us break it down. Backhand index pointing right assets put money into your pocket. Backhand index pointing right liabilities take money out. That is it. Simple. But here's the problem. Most people say, my house is my biggest asset. But is it really? Think about it. If your house is costing you money every month, mortgage, taxes, repairs, is it putting money in your pocket? No, it is taking money out. That makes it a liability. Rich Dad explained this to Robert early. He said, do not buy things that eat your money. Buy things that feed your wallet. Rich people buy assets. Poor and middle-class people buy liabilities, thinking they are assets. Here is how Robert learned it. He looked around at adults. His poor dad bought a big house when he got promoted. It looked fancy. It made him feel successful. But every month, the bills got bigger. The pressure got heavier. And the debt kept growing. His dad was not rich. He was just looking rich. Then Robert looked at Rich Dad. He lived in a modest home. He wore simple clothes. But every month, his assets made him more money. Rental properties, small businesses, investments. Those were his real assets. Rich Dad taught, if you buy more liabilities, you will work harder for life. If you buy more assets, your money will work for you. This was a mindset shift. Robert started to ask one question before every purchase. Will this put money into my pocket or take it out? So what are real assets? Backhand index pointing right rental properties that give you income. Backhand index pointing right stocks that grow in value. Backhand index pointing right books you write that earn royalties. Backhand index pointing right businesses you own. Backhand index pointing right anything that makes money while you sleep. These are true assets, but most people buy cross-smart cars they cannot afford. Cross-smart big houses with big loans. Cross-smart gadgets that lose value. Cross-smart vacations on credit cards. They call it success. But it is a trap. Robert learned early. The rich are not rich because they work harder. They are rich because they think differently. They understand assets. They avoid liabilities. And they build their life around this one rule. Now ask yourself, is what I am buying asset or liability? Because that answer decides your future. Wake up, go to work, get paid, pay the bills. Repeat, that is what most people call life. But Rich Dad had another name for it, the rat race. Poor Dad was stuck in it. He had a good job. He earned well. But every time he got a raise, his spending went up. New car, bigger house, more debt. He thought that was success. But he was just running round and round in a circle. No freedom, no peace, just stress. Rich Dad said, if you want to be free, you must escape the rat race. How? Backhand index pointing right, build passive income streams. Money that comes in even when you're not working. Let us understand this better. Most people trade time for money. They work 40+ hours a week for a paycheck. If they stop working, the money stops too. That is active income, and it has limits. Now imagine this. You own a rental property. Each month, it gives you $1,000, even while you sleep. That is passive income. You are not working for the money. Your asset is working for you. This is how the rich escape the rat race. They stop depending only on their job. They start building income that does not need their time. Robert had a breakthrough. He was young. He saw how his poor dad worked hard, but never got ahead. At the same time, Rich Dad spent more time teaching, building, and thinking. And yet, Rich Dad kept getting richer. Why? Because every dollar Rich Dad earned, he invested it into assets. Those assets created more income, and that income bought even more assets. It was a cycle, but not a rat race. It was a freedom loop. One day, Rich Dad said something Robert never forgot. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them. It hit Robert hard. It changed the way he saw money forever. He stopped asking, how much can I earn? He started asking, how much can I build? And now ask yourself, backhand index pointing right, are you trading time for money and staying stuck? Backhand index pointing right, or are you planting seeds that grow even when you sleep? Escaping the rat race is not easy, but it is possible. You do not need millions. You just need a plan and the right mindset. Start small, build smart, keep growing, because real freedom is not about working more. It is about needing to work less. And that is the next lesson. Work to learn, not to earn. Are you ready? Rich Dad said something powerful. The poor say, I can't afford it. The rich ask, how can I afford it? Those two sentences may sound similar, but they come from two completely different mindsets. Let's break it down. When you say, I can't afford it, you close the door. You shut down your brain. You accept defeat without even trying. It is the voice of scarcity. It tells you, you do not have enough. You will never have enough. Do not dream big. Poor Dad thought this way. He believed in playing it safe. Work hard, save money, avoid risk. He was always worried about bills, about job security, about losing what he had. Even with his college degrees and steady job, he lived with a fear mindset. Now look at Rich Dad. He taught Robert to say, how can I afford it? It is just one word different, but it changes everything. That question forces your brain to think, to look for solutions, to become creative. It is the voice of abundance. It says, there is always a way. You can figure out. You can grow bigger than your problem. Robert felt this shift early. He remembered wanting something as a kid, a toy or a bike. Poor Dad said, be realistic. We cannot afford that. But Rich Dad said, good. Now, go find a way to earn the money. That moment changed Robert's life. Instead of shutting down, he started to think like a problem solver. He found small ways to make money. He learned from each mistake. He built confidence, not because someone gave him money, but because he earned it by using his mind. Rich Dad always said, money is a tool, but your mind is the real weapon. If your mind is weak, money will control you. If your mind is strong, you will control the money. This is why mindset matters. Rich people do not just have more money, they have better thinking. They do not say, I can't. They ask, how can I? Robert realized something important. The biggest difference between rich dad and poor dad was not their income, it was their attitude. Rich dad believed in learning, in growing, in taking responsibility. Poor dad believed in staying safe, in blaming others, in avoiding risk. And here's the truth. Money flows to people who think differently. If you want to be rich, you must train your mind to see opportunity where others see obstacles. So next time you see something you want, do not say, I can't afford it. Take a breath, look up, and ask yourself, how can I afford it? Because that question could open the door to your future. Next lesson, work to learn, not just to earn. What does wealth really mean? Is it a big house, a fancy car, a giant bank account? No, real wealth is freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom to say no, freedom to live life on your terms. Robert Kiyosaki learned this the hard way. For years, he followed the typical path. He worked jobs, earned money, paid bills, but deep down, he felt trapped. Even when his paycheck grew, his stress also grew. More hours, more pressure, more fear of losing it all. He was not free. Then he looked at Rich Dad. Rich Dad did not work a 9-to-5 job. He had businesses. He had investments. He had income that came in, even while he slept. And most of all, he had time. Time to think. Time to be with family. Time to do what he loved. That was the 8A moment. Robert finally understood. Real wealth is when your money works for you, not when you work for money. So he made a decision. He stopped chasing a paycheck. He started building assets. He bought rental properties. He started small businesses. He invested in education. Each step was hard. He made mistakes. He lost money, but he kept learning, kept growing. One day, everything changed. He looked at his bank account and realized he had earned more in passive income than he ever had at a full-time job. He did not have to wake up at 6 a.m. He did not have to answer to a boss. He did not have to worry about bills. He was finally free, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Because freedom is not just about having money. It is about having power over your time. Rich Dad always said, the poor and middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them. That is the real difference. It is not luck. It is not talent. It is not being born rich. It is about choosing a different path, a smarter path, a freedom path. So ask yourself, do you want to spend your life working for money? Or do you want to live a life where money works for you? Here is the truth. You can be rich if you build real assets. You can be free if you focus on time, not stuff. Do not chase the lifestyle. Chase the freedom. Because that is real wealth. After all the stories, after all the struggles, what did Robert Kiyosaki really learn? What can you learn? Here are the simple, powerful lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Light bulb lesson 1. Invest in yourself. Your mind is your greatest asset. Rich Dad always said, the more you learn, the more you earn. Do not wait for school to teach you about money, because they won't. Learn on your own. Read books. Take courses. Ask questions. Watch how money works. The more you understand, the more power you gain. If you want to become rich, start by becoming smart. Light bulb lesson 2. Buy assets, not liabilities. This changed Robert's life. He realized that most people buy things that look valuable, but actually drain their money. A big car, an expensive house, designer clothes. These are liabilities. They take money out of your pocket. But assets, they put money in your pocket. rental property, stocks, a small business, even a book or product you create. Buy things that earn, not things that impress others. Light bulb lesson 3. Make money work for you. Rich Dad said it clearly. Do not be a slave to money. Poor Dad worked for every dollar. He traded time for money. Rich Dad built systems. He built income streams. Even when he slept, money came in. That is the goal. Do not just work for money. Build a life where money works for you. Light bulb lesson 4. Take smart risks. Money is not about safety. It is about being wise. Rich Dad was not afraid to take risks, but he always learned first. He never jumped blindly. He calculated. He studied. He asked, what's the worst that could happen? Fear keeps most people poor, but courage with knowledge builds wealth. Light bulb lesson 5. Take control of your future. Here is the truth. No one is coming to save you. Not the government, not your job, not the lottery. You are the only one who can change your life. That means white heavy check mark, make a plan. White heavy check mark, set goals. White heavy check mark, track your money. White heavy check mark, learn every day. Do not live paycheck to paycheck. Do not stay stuck in a rat race. Glowing star, take control. Take action, because your future is in your hands. The world is changing fast, but money still follows the same rules. Those who understand money grow. Those who ignore it struggle. So be the one who learns. Be the one who grows. Be the one who becomes free. You can be broke, but you never have to be poor. Poverty is not just in your wallet. It is in your mind. The real difference between Rich Dad and Poor Dad, it was never about how much money they had. It was about how they thought. Poor Dad said, I can't afford it. Rich Dad asked, how can I afford it? That one sentence, that one shift, changed everything. You do not need to be born rich. You do not need a fancy degree. You do not need perfect timing. What you need is the courage to learn, the wisdom to act, and the patience to build. Glowing star, so ask yourself, are you making your money work for you? Or are you still trading your life for every dollar? Because in the end, wealth is not money. It is freedom. Speech balloon, you will never be truly free until you decide what you want your money to do for you. Choose your path. Start small. Think big. And never stop learning. Because your financial freedom starts with one decision: to think differently.